Nearing the 1930s, the Cunard Line knew they had to make a new vessel, as the new German liner Bremen was becoming the most popular vessel for its style and speed after beating Cunard's flagship vessel, Mauritania's record in 1929. So Cunard began to make a plan. This would be the Queen Mary. Construction would start on December 1st, 1930, and her name would stay for the time being as hull number 534. All things seemed to be going well till Cunard ran out of money due to the Great Depression. They could not gather any funds from their other liners, so the construction stopped. The workers were now out of a job and the ship would sit on Kleinbank for 27 months till construction would pick up again after UK's government gave Cunard the money when Cunard and Cunard's biggest competitor, White Star Line, merged. Finally, on September 26, 1934, hull number 534 was named by the current sitting monarch at the time, Queen Mary of Teck.
I am Captain, who named this ship the Queen Mary.
The Queen Mary was then launched and the fitting out process could begin.
If it's bad, I don't need it. If it's good, then I crave it.
The four propellers
If it's
for the
bad,
first time plunge into the gliders
you
and
can
slip
save it.
gracefully into the water.
Now my mama told me long ago, if you want to get along, then there's one thing that you ought to know is right from wrong. If it's good, then I want it. If it's bad, you can give it to the people that want to the devil. But if it's good.
Later on May 27, 1936, the Queen Mary would sail on her maiden voyage from Southampton, England to New York, United States. The whole of England was hoping for her to catch the blue ribbon from her French rival Normandy. Due to heavy fog, the ship was ordered to slow down. When she made it to New York, she was greeted by many small boats, having a bigger parade of boats trailing with her than the Normandy did. After the Queen Mary's maiden voyage, Cunard would begin looking into making a sister ship for the Queen Mary, to finally achieve their 2-week Atlantic service. This ship would be the Queen Elizabeth. She would begin construction on December 4th, 1936, and she would be launched by the Queen Elizabeth I and named after her on September 27th, 1938. She would then begin her fitting out process for the next 2 years till war broke out. Great Britain and France had declared war on Germany after Germany captured Poland. For the time being, Queen Elizabeth was sent on a secret maiden voyage set up by Winston Churchill. They set up a fake maiden voyage and said the Queen Elizabeth would arrive in Southampton. By the time of the scheduled arrival, German bomber planes flew over Southampton, but Queen Elizabeth was already making her way to New York. For months, Queen Elizabeth, Queen Mary, and Normandy would lay up next to each other as the war raged on in Europe. America stayed neutral till the bombing of Pearl Harbor. Now the US needed ways to get troops to Europe, and this is where the Queens came into play. For the next 4 years, the Queens would transport troops from Europe, Australia, and New Zealand. During the war, the Queen Mary was in a fatal accident on October 2nd, 1942, while being led by a small troopship named the Carasoa was zigzagging in front of the Queen Mary. The Queen Mary slowly sped up to the Carasoa, and the two aligned at the wrong time as the Carasoa was split in half by the Queen Mary. Her captain was ordered to continue on as Hitler had a bounty on the Queens and she could be an easy target for U-boats. 331 out of the 432 men on board perished. The Queens then finished up service for the war in 1947, with the Queen Mary carrying 810,000 troops and the Queen Elizabeth carrying 750,000. Queen Elizabeth finally had her first commercial voyage from Southampton to New York, while Queen Mary went to dry dock to be refurbished to her former glory. This meant that for a few weeks the Queen Elizabeth would make transatlantic routes by herself. Cunard finally had their 2-weekly service for the Queens. For years they'd be beloved by the public and continue to make transatlantic crossings along the route, but all this would start to come to a creeping end. Air travel is now the fastest way to cross the Atlantic, now going from just a few days to just a few hours. The ocean liners became obsolete and redundant. The only way Cunard could continue to make funds off of the Queens was by having them sail in tropical areas during the winter and keep them on the transatlantic route during the summer. This wouldn't work though, as the Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth were just too big for cruising services at the time, so this is what led to the end. Cunard had announced that the Queen Mary would retire in 1967, with the Queen Elizabeth retiring a year after. This upset the public as they did not want to see these two great liners disappear, so many people started putting up bids to buy the ships. The two places that won the ships were the city of Long Beach, California for the Queen Mary to become a hotel and tourist attraction, and the Queen's Corporation for the Queen Elizabeth to be repurposed similar to the Queen Mary. On September 27th, Queen Mary completed her 1,000th transatlantic crossing from New York to Southampton. Later on October 31st, 1967, Queen Mary left Southampton for the last time. She began one of her longest voyages to cross the Atlantic, around Cape Horn and up around to Long Beach, California, where she would rest permanently. During this voyage, she would no longer be owned by Cunard, so she ran on only the 2 out of her 4 propellers and had no air conditioning since she never had it installed on her. But after 10 days, on December 9th, she finally made it to her final resting place in Long Beach. She was followed by many small ships and saluted by British and American troop vessels on her way to Long Beach to honor a former veteran. Her restoration and refurbishment took 5 years, and she opened to the public in 1971, where she still sits today. In 1969, the Queen Elizabeth opened to the public in Port Everglades, Florida. She was opened 3 years before her sister. Though this was a bad idea for the corporation, the ship refurbishments were barely changed and she was still the same way she was, with her boilers still left inside, unlike the Queen Mary. She was showed to be unmaintained and unprofitable. Soon she started to show as a fire hazard. This was not something the corporation was up for, and sold the Queen Elizabeth to the Orient Overseas Line. Now renamed the Seawise University, she had become a floating university, but during her refurbishment she caught on fire. As tugs pumped water into the vessel, she slowly capsized into Hong Kong harbor, and the wreck site stayed there for a pretty long time. She was then even used in the movie The Man with the Golden Gun by James Bond, and then finally she was scrapped in 1975. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, because I had a lot of fun making it. I will be making more like this in the future, so if that's what you were wondering, I will. It's going to be a little playlist and series I make for later on this YouTube channel. Anyways, as the time I'm making this video, or uploading it I should say, it's the Queen Mary's 85th anniversary, so happy birthday Queen Mary. Anyways guys, I'll talk to you in the next one. Peace.